It's time to die.
I have experienced paranormal activity in my house. Fuck, did you guys hear his fucking movements?
It's way too many fake niggas. I'm tired of fake niggas. Sneak dissing, but be all in my face.
I'm gonna get so much freaking dollars that you don't even know it. Ah!
Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to another review for the month of Gorror. This is number 13, and that's the unlucky number, obviously, so good luck to this film. This movie I am talking about is the newly released film, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, which is a movie I was actually kind of interested in, and I keep wanting to call it Scouts vs. Zombies, so if I do throughout the rest of the review, I'm sorry. But anyway, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, I was actually really interested in. One, pretty good title. That's a good title. Two, the trailers were actually interesting because they weren't really trailers that I saw. When this movie was being marketed, at least in theaters I went to, they never showed trailers. They only showed little clips in between trailers of the movie. Like, it'd be like 10-15 second clips of like Scouts Guide rule number 32 or something, and then it'd show a little clip or something, which was interesting, and it was actually pretty funny. And number three, I actually like some of the actors in here. I like Ty Sheridan. I think he's a really good up-and-coming actor. I really like David Kushner, of course, Anchorman, a ton of other stuff. Recently, Cheap Thrills, he was great in that. And some other actors here and there, like Cloris Leachman, just, you know. And like I said, the trailers were interesting and kind of funny. So I was looking into this kind of with low expectations, but still kind of wanting to see it. So I was going into this not expecting a good movie, but I was expecting it to be a good movie. I don't know. You figure it out. But anyway, let's talk about Scout's Guide versus Zombies. So Scout's Guide versus the Zombie Apocalypse is a very simple story. It actually mixes Superbad with zombies. Pretty much. That's pretty much what it is, except maybe not the stoner humor of Superbad. There's not really any stoner stuff in this film. It's mostly just the relationship of Superbad, where you had, of course, the three friends who are longtime friends. They have some problems throughout the film, you know. Oh, do they become best friends again at the end? Who knows? Along the way, there's zombies, so they have to kill zombies, you know. It's a very simple story, and I'm not really going to go through it. It's very simple. If you want to know what the story is, you could probably read the entire synopsis in 2 sentences on IMDb. It's a very simple premise about three friends. They're scouts, of course. 2 of them don't want to be scouts. One of them wants to. He's a big scout guy. Zombies start happening. They become, you know, kind of like, they start to lose their friendship, but through the power of killing zombies, they become friends again. That's the story. There you go, I explained it. But the story here is fun. It is a fun little premise, a fun little story. I got a couple problems with it. One, the characters are good for the most part. I like some of the characters. I like the Augie kid, who's the fat one. Of course, you have to have the fat one. You have Ty Sheridan, who's Ben, likable character. You have the bartender or something like that, or I'm sorry, cocktail waitress girl in this movie who carries a shotgun around, and she's pretty badass. I thought she was really good. And there was a couple other characters, like David Kushner's character. Usually David Kushner always plays that kind of like redneck asshole. Here he's actually playing like he's the camp, not the camp, the scout master, I guess. And he's actually more like I'm always happy and stuff. Like, oh, I'm always looking up on stuff, and I'm always like, hey, stop cursing. You know, he's that kind of guy. And I thought that was kind of a different role for him. And sadly, he's not in the movie too much, but he's pretty funny. So there's some good actors, some good characters in there, but there's a couple of really annoying ones. Mainly, of course, for some reason, just like Superbad, they have to have that one like sidekick or just friend that's annoying, always cracks jokes, always wants to like just be annoying. And of course you have that character here. I don't even remember his name. I don't care. He was annoying. Of course I remember all the other characters' names because they were actually either interesting or likable. This one, they have that character and he's annoying. He's not funny. Every time he opened his mouth, I wanted him to die so hard. There's a couple scenes here and there that he's okay for the most part. Like when they're bonding, like all 3 of the friends are bonding, it's okay. But for the most part, he's really annoying. Okay, so that's one problem. I also have another problem with the premise. The premise is that they're all scouts. Of course, that means they have all the badges for, you know, like making a fire place or whatever, or a campfire, or they could, you know, put they could change a tire or whatever, you know. And they don't really use that premise too much. Like, there's not enough of the scouts being scouts when a zombie comes up. Most of the time they're running away or they're stabbing something with a stick, you know, or they're shooting someone with a shotgun. So them being scouts is very superfluous to the plot, actually. You know, the only reason why they're scouts is because they all met as scouts, so they're friends because they're scouts, because they're the only ones that are scouts in this entire high school. So that's really the only reason why they're scouts. They never use the scouts aspect for anything else, really. I mean, a couple times here and there, but they're very small and kind of like throwaway things, like someone knows how to pick a lock, which I don't even know if scouts can learn that, but so they change a tire in the movie, you know, there's a couple of things, but they also build their own weapons later on in the movie. But to be honest, like, we've seen that so many times in movies, it didn't feel like a scout thing, but whatever. The premise wasn't used that much. But besides that, it's still a fun little story. They used the Superbad like style of high school like friendship pretty well, even though they never go to the high school, really. Like, you never see them in the high school, but you can see, like, you can see the bullies, you know, you see those bullies and stuff. It's pretty cliched, but it works pretty well. Towards the end, you're like, okay, they're friends, and you can buy them as friends. You can tell that the actors like each other, and the characters are, for the most part, okay, besides that one annoying character. But the Augie and the Ben character, they're likable. So, yeah, that part works for the most part. But when it gets to the zombie part, I was impressed with the makeup and the special effects and the practical effects they used in this movie. I was actually really surprised, because I was going into this, it's going to be bloody, but it's going to probably look really silly, very CG. There's actually a lot of practical effects. There's actually a scene where this one zombie, and this is the only time you ever see a different style of zombie that actually does anything besides just run. This one actually gets on all fours and starts running like kind of like a dog or whatever, and there's like a big protruding like spine coming out of his back, and it's like really creepy and really gross. There's a lot of really good, like, when someone's heads get blown up, you can tell there's CG in there, but you can also tell there was some practical, like they actually used like a practical head explosion, then they went over it with CG, but it's not too bad. There's a couple really good like slow motion shots of heads just exploding, and even if it's CG, it looked pretty good and pretty disgusting. They spend some good time with the CG, if there's CG in there. I can't actually tell sometimes. There's some times where you definitely can. Like, don't get me wrong, like, it's not like this movie's like Mad Max. Like, you're not going to be able to tell what's CG and what's not. There's going to be shots that are completely obvious. But there's more than a dozen shots of just zombies getting chopped up or explode or whatever that look pretty damn good, and it looked like it was practical, and I have to give them credit. You know, this movie was made for cheap, but they could have easily used that cheap-ass CG that all these other terrible horror movies like Paranormal Activity, the new one, did with the crappy CG ghosts. They could have easily did that, but they didn't. They went practical. Obviously, they gave enough of a shit to do that. So yeah, when it comes to that, it was actually pretty gory. It wasn't really scary or anything, but it was pretty gory. It was good. So when it gets to the zombies, that's good. But like Superbad, it's a comedy. It's supposed to be a comedy, a horror comedy. This is my main problem with the movie, and I'm going to wrap it up right here. The movie might have some decent characters, some fun little lines here and there that are kind of funny, but a lot of the time, it's very, very, very vulgar style humor that does not work completely at all, really. I mean, okay, that's harsh to say. There was actually a few really funny gags in here. I was the only one in theaters, so I was the only one like, hey, he's pulling his penis. If you see the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But there's a couple of good vulgar jokes and gags in here. But for the most part, there's a lot of really silly ones, like a lot of ones based around like, hey, this character is taking a selfie with a bunch of zombies. Isn't that funny? Because he's using a phone. Oh, this character keeps saying BRB and stuff. Like, it's a lot of internet humor, I felt, that was thrown in there, which is, I don't know, it wasn't funny. There was a lot of really just bad gags in this film. But besides that, I thought it was pretty well shot. It was pretty violent, pretty gory. A lot of violence. The zombies are pretty good. The makeup on them look pretty decent for the most part. Even though I would say that the zombies don't do the main thing that they're supposed to do and eat people. You never really see that. You see like a zombie bite one guy, maybe two, and that's it. You never see them like eating out someone's like intestines or something. But there's a couple of decent gags. There's some good gore, like I said, some decent characters, some good acting, and some decent direction. So I thought this movie was not that bad. It's a mixed bag, obviously. Like I'm saying, like, it's good here, but it's bad here, you know, obviously. So it's a mixed bag, but it's not as bad as some of the reviews are making it sound. Like, it's not a 3 or a 4 out of 10. It's like a 5, 5.5. But on my score, I'm going to give it a 22 out of 40. Pretty decent-ish, you know, mediocre, average. But you might have a good time if you get this on, like, a VOD, you know, digital or whatever. Which, this movie will be on VOD in a couple weeks, because they're doing some big thing where after this movie drops down to 300 theaters, they're going to put it on VOD, which will definitely be in a week or two. So just wait until then. I highly recommend it as a rental. So there you go. That's my review for Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and until next time, goodbye.